Hello and welcome to Veterans Medals Workshop. I'm your host, Frank Foster, and today we have a really great show. We're going to take a look at the Vietnam veterans of the 101st Airborne Division unit patch, or shoulder sleeve insignia, distinctive unit insignia, or unit crest, however you want to call it, and a couple of the, distinctive unit insignias of the subordinate units within the division. Stay with me on this one because we will then take a look at every basic medal that a member of the 101st Airborne Division earned for service in Vietnam. I think you'll find this very interesting, and it's going to move along briskly. So let's go. 101st Airborne Division, known as the Screaming Eagles, landed in Vietnam in November of 1967 and stayed until March of 1972. Over 138,000 men served in the 101st Airborne Division during this period. They were mainly tasked with securing the northern regions of South Vietnam, which included the provinces of Quang Tri and Quang Nam, and during their stay, they earned the Presidential Unit Citation in 1968, the Valorous Unit Award in 68, 69, and 71, the Meritorious Unit Commendation in 68 and 71, and the Republic of Vietnam Cross of Gallantry with Palm. The division conducted search and destroy missions in the province of Quang Tri, and during the Tet Offensive, it played a major role in the defense and liberation of Hue City. It also conducted incredible attacks in the Ao Shao Valley and supported the South Vietnamese Army during Long Som 719 during the invasion of Laos. It participated in the Battle of Hamburger Hill, the Battle of Firebase Ripcord, and the Battle of Khe Sanh when it helped lift the siege from the North Vietnamese Army. The shoulder sleeve insignia of the 101st Airborne Division is a shield with the head of a bald eagle, and attached above the insignia is a black tab inscribed Airborne in yellow. The design is based on one of the Civil War traditions of the state of Wisconsin, the state being the territory of the original 101st Airborne Division, and the eagle alludes to Old Abe, the famous war eagle, actually carried into combat during the Civil War by the 8th Wisconsin Infantry Regiment. The shoulder sleeve insignia was originally approved for the 101st Division in May of 1923, redesignated for the 101st Airborne Division in August of 1942, redesignated as the 101st Air Cavalry Division in August of 68, and then redesigned for the 101st Airborne Division Air Mobile in September of 1968. The distinctive unit insignia, shown on the lower right, is a medium blue disc with a black eagle with a white head, wings detailed, eyes and beak in gold, with a downward flight issuing from a white cloud and a sinister base, all above a gold scroll bearing the motto, Rendezvous with Destiny, in black letters. The design was suggested by the division's authorized shoulder sleeve insignia, and the black eagle refers to Old Abe, the actual eagle carried into combat during the Civil War by the regiment from Wisconsin and the territory of the 101st Division. The eagle issuing in downward flight from the cloud refers to the airborne classification of a division, and the motto, Rendezvous with Destiny, has been the motto of the division since its founding. While assigned to the 101st Airborne Division, the unit patch was worn on the upper left sleeve, and a unit crest was worn on the epaulet. The example I just showed you, the 502nd Airborne Infantry or the 501st Airborne Infantry, if you were not wearing the distinctive unit insignia of the division. During the Vietnam War, members of the division developed some interesting variations of the official Screaming Eagle or 101st Airborne Division patch, which is shown on your left. The one just to the right of it with the eagle facing the other direction was made for wearing on the right shoulder of the uniform so that the eagle head faced forward and not to the rear. During the Vietnam War, it was a tradition to wear your combat patch on the right sleeve of your uniform. And so these soldiers wanted to have the eagle facing forward. And of course, always have to have a joker in the crowd who replaced the airborne tab with the Vietnam tab. And whoever designed the Ao Shao Valley patch, it sort of has the eagle look like he's had a bad night out. There's probably 100 other variations of 101st Airborne Division patch that were made in country during the Vietnam War. Starting on your left and reading left to right, let's take a look at the 5 key infantry regiments within the 101st Airborne Division. The 187th Infantry Regiment was a separate regiment assigned to the 101st during the Vietnam War. TONE infantry units of 101st Airborne were the 1st and 2nd Battalion of a 327th Airborne Infantry Regiment, the 1st and 2nd Battalion of a 501st Airborne Infantry Regiment in their famous name Geronimo, then the 1st and 2nd Battalion of the 502nd Airborne Infantry Regiment with the motto of Strike, and then on the far right, the distinctive unit insignia of the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd Battalion of the 506 Airborne Infantry Regiment, made famous by the show Band of Brothers. Time out, please. If you're enjoying this show, please subscribe. It will keep us on the air. Thank you. Let's take a look now at the awards and the basic medals that every soldier who served in the 101st Airborne Division in Vietnam would have earned. When a young soldier arrived, and we'll use an example as a young infantry private would have arrived in Vietnam, he would have been authorized, in this case parachute qualified, the National Defense Service Medal, his unit patch of 101st Airborne, his collar insignia that indicated he was a U.S. soldier and an infantryman, and his marksmanship badges. After 30 days service in Vietnam, our soldier would have been awarded the Vietnam Service Medal with at least 1 campaign star, and since he's an infantryman, he probably would have already qualified for the Combat Infantryman's Badge. 101st Airborne Infantry soldier was authorized the South Vietnamese Campaign Medal after 6 months in country and may have qualified for other awards. Based on his dates of service in Vietnam, he may have earned up to 2 campaign stars as shown on his United States Vietnam Service Medal in the center. By the way, I have listed all of the official campaigns that the 101st Airborne Division qualified for during the Vietnam War, along with their dates down below. So the basic load of awards for our 101st Airborne Infantryman at the end of his 1-year tour would be, of course, the Screaming Eagle patch at the top of his display, his collar insignia, his distinctive unit insignia of the 101st Airborne Division, unless he was in one of the battalions of the regiments I mentioned, and I'll show you an example of that in a moment, the Combat Infantry Badge, the Parachute Badge, and then his medals reading left to right, the Good Conduct Medal, which almost all of the soldiers would have earned, not all of them, but most all of them, the National Defense Service Medal, the United States Vietnam Service Medal with the appropriate number of campaign stars, and as I said before, there's a list of them underneath, then the Vietnamese Campaign Medal, and then below that is the South Vietnamese Cross of Gallantry Unit Citation, plus his marksmanship badges. Of course, not everybody was in the infantry, and here's an example of a medic that was in the 2nd Battalion of a 501st Airborne Infantry. You can see his distinctive unit insignia, and he's been awarded the Army Commendation Medal with V for Valor, the Good Conduct Medal, the National Defense Medal, the United States Vietnam Service Medal with the appropriate campaign stars, and the South Vietnamese Campaign Medal, along with down at the bottom, just over his nameplate, is the South Vietnamese Cross of Gallantry Unit Citation. All 138,000 101st Airborne Division veterans of the Vietnam War had different experiences, and each one of them would have a different way of remembering those experiences with the awards and decorations that they earned. As I mentioned, every veteran of 101st Airborne Division in Vietnam would have earned at least the National Defense Service Medal, the United States Vietnam Service Medal, and the Vietnamese Campaign Medal, as well as the Vietnamese Cross of Gallantry Unit Citation. Other unit awards are listed below with the dates they were earned by the units. A good example of a captain that served in both MAC-V and 101st Airborne. He has his Combat Infantry Badge, his Parachute Badge, and then his unit awards, the Presidential Unit Citation, Meritorious Unit Citation, and the Vietnamese Cross of Gallantry Unit Citation. And below that, his Bronze Star with V, Purple Heart, multiple awards of the Commendation Medal, The National Defense Medal, his U.S. Vietnam Campaign Medal, and the Vietnamese Cross of Gallantry awarded to him, as well as the Civic Action Medal and the Vietnamese Campaign Medal, and a commemorative medal. Young sergeant had an interesting case. He uses the MAC-V patch to indicate that the 101st Airborne Division was operating under the control of MAC-V at the time he served. He has no good conduct medal, and he was a sergeant, so he must have gotten into a little trouble somewhere down around not trying. But he does use commemorative medals to indicate combat service, air assault, being there during TET with the TET Campaign Commemorative Medal, and the Honorable Service Medal. Time out for just a second. I need to say thank you to Medals of America in Fountain Inn, South Carolina, because they generously provide all of the ribbons, medals, and insignia that you see on the show. So you don't really need their catalog anymore, although it is available, but you can just order right on your phone, and it'll be there in a day or two. So thank you. This former infantry officer of the 101st Airborne Division displays his awards in miniature form in a display case, which makes it kind of neat because you can take them out and have them available to wear on formal or appropriate patriotic occasions. Many veterans of 101st Airborne Division in Vietnam earned many more decorations and service medals than the basic load that I just showed you. The military ribbons of the officers, non-commissioned officers, and soldiers of 101st Airborne Division wore home after their tour in Vietnam does not really represent their accomplishments as much as the full-size medals that they had earned. Thanks for joining us today for our show on the Vietnam veterans of 101st Airborne Division Unit Patch and Unit Crest, our distinctive unit insignia. All of the information you saw today came from my latest book, Medals, Badges, and Insignia of the United States Army in Vietnam. It's available for you on Amazon. I think you will enjoy it if you want to see everything there is about medals, badges, and insignia of the U.S. Army in Vietnam. See you next time on Veterans Medals Workshop. If you would like more information on United States military awards for the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, or Coast Guard, well, even the Merchant Marine, check out our books on Amazon.